With a lot of help from the guys who skate around loosely officiating some of the rules of the NHL whenever they feel like it, the Kraken snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But Matty Beniers plays his first game and is a point per game player so far at this point in his career. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken do end up falling 5-3 to the Calgary Flames with a third period to forget. But the game was still one to remember, as Matty Beniers, who signed his ELC just as I was uploading the video talking about how he hadn't yet, does play for the Kraken in this one, his first ever NHL game. Lineup-wise for the Kraken, after a few games of relative stability on the forward end, there was a fair amount of mixing and matching and players moving around on different lines. Of course, with the biggest question being where Beniers would end up slotting in and how much time he would end up playing for the Kraken. Well, they end up slotting him into the center role on the second line along with Donato and Eberle, and he gets a pretty good amount of playing time in this game. Just over 17 minutes by the end of it. Otherwise, the rest of the lines for the Kraken were pretty new, other than Gord and Lynn sticking together with the chemistry they've been able to form, being joined by Rask on what is now the first line for the Kraken. And since obviously somebody had to be scratched for Beniers to get into the lineup, in this game at least, that ends up being Daniel Sprong, who, ever since scoring 3 goals in his first 3 games for Seattle, hasn't really made a huge difference. He still does have a good shot and has been pretty good offensively, but hasn't been able to get back on the score sheet. And in net for the Kraken, coming off of 3 pretty solid outings in his last 3 appearances for the Kraken, would be Chris Driedger. He did have a pretty good first 2 periods of this game, but the third period didn't really go well for pretty much anybody on the team, aside from maybe Beniers. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ice for the Flames, it's worth mentioning that Calle Jarnkrok does get a start in this game. He did end up playing in Seattle when these teams met a couple of days ago, but he does get the start in this one, so it's the first time that the Kraken get to see one of their old teammates play against them for the opposing team. Or at least one of their teammates who spent significant time with the team. As we get into the game, the first period in this one is not too dissimilar from the first period a few days ago between these two teams in Seattle, where it's a pretty defensive game back and forth at either end of the ice. Not a ton of chances on goal, even though there is a fair amount of time in the offensive zone for both teams. The biggest difference being that unlike the game on Saturday, there aren't 2 goals scored early on in this one, as we do get through the majority of the first period with this game still scoreless. Even with Seattle, again, much like the game on Saturday, getting a good amount of momentum through the middle of the period. Though even with a fair amount of time spent in the offensive zone for the Kraken, and even a fair amount of shot attempts for Seattle, they aren't able to get a lot of them to the net and through the Calgary defense. Larson does put one off of a post. Beniers gets a pretty decent look for his first shot on goal, or first shot attempt of his career, which he ends up putting a bit wide, maybe getting a little overexcited. He did, at least for his first ever appearance on the ice, win a faceoff to start his career, so maybe that bodes well. Eventually, the Flames are able to slow down the Kraken momentum and even start to push it in their favor. Though just as they are able to do that, it's Seattle who breaks the ice going back the other way against this new Calgary flow of play. And of course, it's the new kid in Matty Beniers who sets the entire play up in the first place, as he carries the puck up along the boards and then circles up by the blue line looking for a shooting lane, isn't able to find one, so instead he dumps it down to Vince Dunn, who had worked his way into the corner. Dunn chips the puck into the corner and then goes after it, is able to retrieve it, and gets it back up to a wide open Matty Beniers, who stares down the net, gets ready for a shot, but instead no-look passes it over to the other side to a wide open Donato, who one-times it into the back of the net to give the Kraken the 1-0 lead, and Beniers gets his first point in the NHL. It's a no-look pass for the assist, and he's on the board just like that. Now, Beniers may have at least glanced over Donato's way as he received the puck, but he held the puck for a couple of seconds, staring down Markstrom in the net, drawing the attention of all the Flames, who were not expecting the pass. When he no-look passes it over to Donato, Donato with the one-timer almost flubs it, just sliding it along the ice, but it ends up working out because Markstrom was able to get back across, and that puck sliding along the ice just squeezes in a little bit of gap between Markstrom's pad and the ice as he was trying to get over to block off that side of the net. Now look, I know Beniers is just a 19-year-old kid that is playing his first game in the NHL, and at this point is only 15 minutes into it, so there's something to be said about reining back expectations and the whole idea of Beniers saving the Kraken from this abysmal first season that they've had. That having been said, at least at this point where he's still just a few shifts into his NHL career, he hasn't looked overwhelmed or lost it all out there on the ice. In fact, he's looked pretty comfortable with the puck, and well, maybe some of the shooting lanes that he's used to while carrying the puck around the offensive zone in college aren't there. he still has been able to now create a play that, to be honest, we really haven't seen from any Kraken player at all this season. At least when it comes to a no-look pass to a wide-open teammate who's able to bury the shot. Of course, I'm sure it does help to some extent that Beniers has spent some time training and even playing with Donato before either one of them was even a part of the Kraken or knew what a Seattle Kraken was in the first place. So there was a little bit of familiarity between the two of them coming into this game and their Kraken career together, which is certainly part of the reason that they were put together on the same line. And it ends up paying off here with this no-look pass to the Donato goal, which for Donato, who gets the goal here, it's now 15 on the season for him, a new single-season career high in his first year with the Kraken. So once again, congratulations, Ryan Donato, on the new career milestone. And also, belated happy birthday with his birthday being on Saturday. Unfortunately, even with all the excitement of Beniers' first point and the Kraken lead in the first period, the lead for the Kraken did not last particularly long, as just a couple minutes later, a intercepted Larson pass on the offensive end turns to a rush chance going back the other way. And while it does take a second for the Flames to get the play set up, eventually it's a Noah Hannafin shot, a one-time shot that finds the back of the net. Even without the Tkachuk tip though, I do think that this was going to end up in the back of the net, as it seemed like Drieger had a bit of a late response to the shot. I don't know if he got screened or just was slow in reacting to that Hannafin shot. Either way, it ties the game at 1. For Hannafin, who ends up picking up an assist here, he also had an assist on all 4 Calgary goals on Saturday against the Kraken, so this makes 5 assists for him in 4 periods against Seattle, and he wasn't done just yet. The Flames would end up getting a power play not long after this goal goes in. Fortunately, Seattle's able to kill it off without really any danger of the Flames ever scoring, so we get to the end of the first period with the score tied at 1. Early in the second, though, that tie would be broken, and it's not all the Matty Beniers show in this game. This time, it's that Yanni Gourde line, and Gordon Lind showing off that chemistry once again that they've been able to develop. It's Lind with the puck along the boards who's able to get a pass out to Gourde, who gets a very good shot off on goal. A good look, but this one is saved by Markstrom with a better save. The rebound, though, goes right back out to Lind along the boards, who gets it down along the boards around the corner behind the net, where Gourde is able to get to it and get a good pass out to a wide-open Victor Rask. Finding a hole in the defense, he gets an open shot off and buries it to give the Kraken the 2-1 lead. Admittedly, this isn't terribly great defense from the Flames, who for some reason have 3 guys clued in on Lind along the boards, 1 guy paying attention to Gourde, and then there's Nick Ritchie, who I don't really know exactly what he's doing out here all alone. That having been said, this shouldn't really be his problem, as there are 4 guys on that side of the ice that should have been able to deal with Rask. Either way, Rask and Gourde are all too happy to take advantage of the defensive miscue by the Flames, and they make it count, finding the back of the net. And from there, the Kraken really control most of the rest of the second period, or at the very least get the slight edge over the Flames. Right up until late in the second period, the refs find another excuse to send Calgary to the power play. It's Larson in the box for high sticking, which really none of the Calgary power plays in this game I have a huge issue with the call that was made. It's more the consistency of the not calls going the other way that I have an issue with. Either way, we'll get there in the end. Calgary goes to the power play here, and it's a very good Flames power play as well. The Kraken do end up killing it off, but this one really only stays out of the net because of Chris Drieger, who comes up with a number of saves. And right after the power play ends unsuccessfully for the Flames, it's the Kraken going back the other way. It's Wennberg carrying the puck into the offensive zone, dropping it to a wide open Larson, who goes right down the middle of the slot, eventually veers off to the side, not taking a shot on his first couple of opportunities, but does eventually fire off a shot at the net, and it goes into the back of it to give the Kraken the 3-1 lead. I think Larson may have just been putting this in looking for a rebound, as he had Donskoy on one side and Wennberg on the other, who could have easily picked up rebounds to put them into the net, but it ends up going right through the 5-hole of Markstrom and into the back of the net to give the Kraken the 2-goal lead late in the second. For Larson, not only is it already his 3rd shot on goal of the game, which for him is quite a few, but he also put that one off the post, which doesn't count as a shot on goal, so quite the offensive production from Larson out of nowhere in this one. It's also his 7th goal of the season, which is now 1 away from doubling his previous career high. And with the second period coming to an end not long after this, Seattle now having a 3-1 lead and looking like they're controlling this game at least 5-on-5 pretty heavily to this point, plus this last goal being a fairly soft one that Markstrom lets in through the 5-hole. That would do it for Markstrom in this one, as Vladar would start the 3rd period for the Flames. And, yeah, about that 3rd period, I don't think we really need to talk about what happened all that much. It turns out to be one of the uglier 3rd periods the Kraken have played this season, definitely not helped out by some of the worst officiating that they've seen all season on top of it. Early in the third, the Kraken do get their first power play of the game as Gord gets interfered with along the boards, though that Kraken power play by 45 seconds into it has allowed 2 shorthanded chances and 2 pretty good ones that Drieger was able to stop both of. And then the power play comes to an end as Vince Dunn gets caught for elbowing, which at first seemed like a really soft call, but I can definitely see it on the replay. Again, not a huge issue with the calls the refs did make in favor of the Flames. More the problem is the ones they didn't make to send the Kraken to potential power plays. At least in this particular case though, honestly not a big deal that Dunn takes the penalty to send us to 4-on-4. Again, the Kraken can't do anything on the power play anyway, and they've already just let up 2 shorthanded chances, so it might be for the best that they go to 4-on-4. However, they never get there because right off the faceoff, Gord gets caught for tripping as unfortunately his stick ends up going through the skate and blade of, I think it was Mangiapane, which is tripping. It's just bad luck for Gord, and it's now a 4-on-3 power play for the Flames, which they do end up capitalizing on before it ends up getting to 5-on-3, which it would have done eventually. Power play goal for the Flames ends up going in off of Tkachuk's stick, so it's his second of the game, but really it's just more bad luck for Larson, as Tkachuk's trying to get a crossing pass over to the other side, but it goes off of Larson's stick in front of the net, right back to Tkachuk, who then is able to put it in past Drieger, with Drieger expecting that pass to get through to the other side, so he opened up the side of the net where Tkachuk was, and then when it bounces off of Larson right back to Tkachuk, it's into the back of the net before Drieger can recover. And I suppose it's also worth mentioning that on this goal that makes it now 3-2, Johnny Gaudreau does get an assist here, which gives him 100 points on the season, his first 100-point season in his career, much less for the Flames, obviously, with his whole career being for the Flames, which I suppose is somewhat relevant because Gaudreau still doesn't have a contract with the Flames and could end up testing free agency, where Seattle may make a run at him, he and Forsberg being a couple of the biggest names left that are still unsigned at this point in the season. The Kraken do end up surviving the rest of the second power play, but not long after that ends, the puck is in the back of the net again to tie up the game. This time it's off of Mangiapane. It is another unlucky bounce for Seattle as a puck from the side of the net that was trying to go in off of a tight angle ends up going off of the post right out to the front of the crease where it's just Mangiapane because somehow all 3 Kraken defenders just let him stand right at the top of the crease uncontested. Either way, it's just him and Drieger can only block a human-size amount of net, and Mangiapane is a good enough player to hit what's left. Again, this one really not that much on Drieger, it's just a bad bounce off the post, and then terrible defense with 3 guys letting Mangiapane again stand at the top of the crease, completely uncontested to get that shot off. The Kraken do try to push back to regain the lead, even through a blatantly missed tripping call behind their net, which doesn't lead to a Kraken power play because only the Flames are going to get power plays in this game until it doesn't matter anymore. And, still, they aren't able to get anything to go, and eventually it's the Flames who get the next power play. Because of course they do. And not only that, but they end up scoring on it off of a one-timer from Hanifin. This time the Hanifin shot goes into the back of the net without touching any other Flames players. He gets a goal, so now that's 5 assists and a goal in the last 2 games against the Kraken. And it's now a 4-3 Flames lead. Eventually, late in the third, Beniers gets so obviously tripped by Mangiapane with some knee-to-knee contact, which they end up calling kneeing, that the refs have no choice but to give Seattle a second power play in the game, which, again, it's a Seattle power play, so it really doesn't go much of anywhere, although Beniers, who did get chances on both power plays for the Kraken on the first power play unit, does get a pretty good shot off on goal. It's just saved by Voladar. Seattle not able to capitalize to re-tie up the game. Coming out of the failed power play for the Kraken, they do end up going empty net to get the 6-on-5 opportunity, but with less than a minute left in the game, Beniers going into the offensive end, gets hooked, loses the puck. There's no call, obviously, because why would they call anything against the Kraken? Or, sorry, against the Flames for the Kraken. And going back the other way, the puck ends up in the empty net. It's a pass to Gaudreau, well, from Gaudreau to Tkachuk to give Tkachuk the hat trick and to give the Flames the 5-3 lead, which they would end up winning with. So yeah, it's a incredibly frustrating third period after very good first and second period for the Kraken. Obviously, letting in 4 goals, or really 3 5-on-5, to have that entire comeback for the Flames is frustrating in its own right. And while none of the power plays that the Flames ended up getting were off of bad calls made by the officials, there were a number of just as obvious calls they could have made on things that happened to Kraken players that they decided not to. So really, the issue here isn't so much that there were bad calls against the Kraken, which there really weren't, it's that there were bad no calls in favor of the Flames. Now, I got asked in the live stream whether I thought the refs were favoring the Flames intentionally because they're actually a team that's contending for the playoffs or going to be in the playoffs, let's just be honest. And no, I don't think that this was an intentional favoring of the Flames. It's just that the Kraken have been coming up on the unlucky end of the inconsistent officiating for a few games in a row now. Ultimately, this is just an NHL-wide issue where officiating has been consistently inconsistent over the last few seasons now. And that does mean that one team or the other is going to get the rough end of that, and the Kraken have just gotten unlucky with that here over the last few games. And I hate that it's this way 2 games in a row, especially considering it's against the same team, but that has to be one of the takeaways of the game, and the fact that this officiating just was awful really in both of these games. Again, not intentionally in favor of the Flames, and yes, the Flames are a better team, so at least if you want to look at it from the standpoint of the better team won, that probably still is true. However, yeah, it did make a difference, certainly in this game and probably in both of these 2 games against Calgary. Along those lines, though, the second takeaway from this game for me would be another trend that we've seen from the Kraken over these last handful of games, and that's that they're just going to the box too often. Now, again, I don't necessarily think that any of the calls against the Kraken were bad ones. Seattle has been a bit irresponsible and careless, undisciplined, whatever you want to call it. They just haven't been particularly great at avoiding going to the box or giving the officials an excuse to send them there. Yes, the consistency of having those calls go back the other way is a problem, but if you want to avoid having that be a problem in the first place, you can just avoid giving the officials any way to send you there by tripping guys in the offensive zone, or Vince Dunn doing bonehead things because he's frustrated that he gets cross-checked in the back or something, which has been an issue here now in a couple of games. The point being, there is a way for the Kraken to solve both of these problems, both the inconsistent officiating going against them more often than not, and also just going to the box too much in the first place. And that would be to just play the game a little cleaner, or really just more responsibly. Getting away from all that though, and to a more positive note, the final takeaway from this game, the biggest story of it, and also what will transition us into the 3 Kraken stars of the game, that would obviously be Matty Beniers, who had a fantastic first outing in the NHL. Again, came into it hoping that he would look good as a second overall pick, but with some tempered expectations considering he was just coming from having played college, or having finished his college career just on Thursday. But as I mentioned back in the first period, though it remained consistently true all game long, Beniers did not look overwhelmed whatsoever at the NHL level. He was able to carry the puck around and really look comfortable carrying the puck on his stick. Again, it's not like hockey's a different sport, just the competition is different. Still though, he was able to really make a difference for the Kraken, and in a lot of ways looked like the best player out on the ice for Seattle for a good portion of this game. Again, that pass he makes to Donato to get that assist, his first point in the first period of his NHL career, was an absolute beauty of a pass, and one of the best plays and best setups we've seen from a Kraken player all season long. I will say there's one part of his college game that definitely transitioned immediately into the NHL here, and that's what set up that whole play that he ended up getting the assist on, where he'll take the puck along the boards and skate it all the way up along the blue line, kind of circling the offensive zone, looking for shooting lanes. Now, in the games I watched of him in college and also playing for Team USA in the Olympics, this is something he likes to do quite a bit when he doesn't have a clear shooting lane when he gets the puck. And you could tell that unlike college, where he often will find his shooting lane as he circles the offensive zone, in the number of times that he tried it here in this game against the Flames, he was consistently defended well and was never able to find a clear shot off to take, eventually just having to dump it down to another player down in the offensive zone, like he did to Dunn again before getting the assist to the Donato goal. Now, again, he did look comfortable with the puck and didn't turn it over while trying at least that maneuver anyway. He did have one turnover to Mangiapane, who stole it from him as he tried to enter the offensive zone. I think that was also in the first period, which he was able to recover from and take it back from Mangiapane back at the Kraken end of the ice later on. The Flames are a pretty good defensive team, and if he does, which I would expect him to, continue doing that against teams like, I don't know, let's just say the Devils or the Senators, like the Kraken are going to face in the next 2 games at home, he might just find some scoring opportunities against teams like that. Even outside of how he played with the puck in the offensive zone and that pass that he made to Donato though, passing-wise, he made a number of very good transition passes to get the Kraken into the offensive zone in the first place, especially in the first and second period, with his passes almost always finding their mark, and even when it seemed like they didn't originally find their mark, it was just a pass off the boards to a player skating up the ice. And unlike when we've seen Kraken players try that in the past, they did usually find a Kraken stick off of the boards rather than just bouncing off the boards and turning into icing or going to an opposing player. So even in his first game playing with all of these guys outside of maybe Donato, he was able to make those tape-to-tape passes very consistently, which, again, based on just the start of the season alone for the Kraken, is something that is a refreshing change of pace, we'll say. Finally, in the defensive end, he also looked fantastic there as well, shutting down a number of Flames plays while he was out on the ice before they could get those shots off on net. Even stealing the puck a couple of times, winning some battles along the boards, and starting Kraken breakouts going back the other way. Really a play driver for the Kraken up and down the ice, showing that 200-foot game that he had advertised coming in. So obviously, when it comes to the Kraken 3 stars, the first star then has to go to Beniers, his first game and first point in the NHL coming in this one, and it was a beauty of assist once again, if I haven't said that enough times, which honestly I don't know if I can say it enough times. It was that nice of a pass. Plus, he was great all up and down the ice for the Kraken, really the best player out on the ice for them, so it's a well-earned first star for him. Second star, I gotta give it to Adam Larsson. Had a great game again, both offensively and defensively for Seattle in this one. Really the only two problems for Larsson in this game being the pass that he had stolen from him in the offensive end that turned into the first Flames goal, and then the puck that really it's just another unlucky bounce for him that goes off of his skate back to Tkachuk and into the net for that, I think it was second Flames goal on the power play. Certainly that second one, really not Larsson's fault at all, just an unlucky bounce. And again, defensively and offensively, outside of those two moments, he was fantastic for the Kraken in this one and an absolute difference maker. And finally, the third star in this game for the Kraken, I'm going to give it to Ryan Donato, again setting a new career high in goals for a single season with 15 on the goal from the Beniers assist. Now, there might be something to be said for the fact that Donato having a strong game in this one, especially offensively, may have had something to do with a little bit of a Beniers effect, if you will, with Matty setting Donato up a number of times in transition going down to the offensive end of the ice. Still though, Donato did take advantage of those opportunities and even set Beniers up a few times as well, as the two of them clearly had some chemistry. Even if a couple of those times where Donato tried to pass it to Beniers to get Beniers that first NHL goal, maybe Donato should have taken the shot rather than going for the pass, but still it's good to see him trying to get his friend a goal. Otherwise, as far as the Flames are concerned, Järnkrok did play I think a pretty good first period, but was relatively invisible in the second and third, wasn't a part of that Flames comeback in any notable way. Still though, it was good to see him playing out on the ice again, even if it was for the other team. Oh, and this was supposed to be the first game of a back-to-back, as they're supposed to be playing in Winnipeg tomorrow, or today as of when you're watching this. However, that game has gotten postponed and will be played on May 1st due to a blizzard, so the next Kraken game will be in 4 days' time with a 3-day break, or 3 days from when you're watching this. It'll be that game on Saturday against the New Jersey Devils at home, which will be Beniers' first home game. With that though, please do let me know, as always, what you thought of this game down in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of Beniers' first game and just the Kraken game in general. And until next time, if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below. Stay safe out there. God bless, and go Kraken.